Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kat, and today I'm doing another wrap up. So September was pretty weird for me. I kept hitting snags and getting into like slumps. I just DNF'd books that I wasn't keen to read because I thought like if I forced myself, I might still be in a slump by the time we hit October. And October is one of my favorite reading times of the year because it's Halloween and I love creepy dark reads, so I really didn't want to be in a slump. So the ones that I wasn't loving, I just put down and was like, it's okay, I'll try them again later or not. You know, there's a lot of books out there. So without further ado, let's get into it. I have 7 books to talk about, 2 that I DNF'd, 5 that I read all the way through. Okay, so the first DNF I have is Meatspace. Now, this is one of the ones that I read for my Do I Trust My Author's Recommendations video challenge, which I will leave the link to down below. So Meatspace was blurbed by Matt Haig, who wrote The Humans, which I liked, and I ended up not liking Meatspace very much at all. I think I read the first 20 to 30 pages, and I just couldn't get into it. It's written 5 years ago about a guy who is kind of not meeting any girls, he's not really having much of a social life, and he's really getting down on himself, especially looking through social media. But you can feel that the novel is very dated. It is 5 years old, so a lot of the tech that's used and a lot of the social media stuff is like very old because social media moves so fast. Also, something to consider is that I'm not at the point right now in my life where I like reading about kind of teenage or early 20s angsty everyday life. That's just not something that appeals to me. So this was never going to be a great read for me unless, I don't know, something really dark happens to that poor main character, and then it might appeal to me more, but just an everyday contemporary, not so much, so that was a DNF. The next DNF I have is actually breaking my heart, because if you have been on my channel very long at all, this was one of my most anticipated books of the whole year. It's The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa. I feel terrible about this, but also I just didn't want to force myself to read it because I didn't want to get into a slump, yada yada yada. This follows a main character who lives on an island where when things are forgotten, then the memory police come and collect everything that reminds the people of those things. So like if ribbons were going to disappear, all the ribbons on the island would be collected and taken away and people would just forget what ribbons are, supposedly. My hang up with this book is that plot device isn't actually carried through. So within the first 20 to 30 pages, there are 3 instances where the main character clearly remembers something that she shouldn't have had the power to remember. So then I thought like, okay, so there's 3 options. 1, the author is breaking the like main point of this novel with the main character. 2, the main character actually is one of the people that can remember, but she hides that from everyone else. 3, the whole book is an extended metaphor. Or 4, sorry, there's actually 4 theories. The 4th one is that this is like China Mieville's The City in the City, where everyone had to pretend that they couldn't see other people even though they could. And in this one, maybe it's like everyone has to pretend that they can't remember even though they can. So none of those sounded appealing to me. So I was like, I'd rather read other things. So that's what I did. But sadly, this is a DNF for me, and I'm going to return it to the library today because I just don't see myself picking it back up. I'm really sad about it, but it's just not for me. So the first book I finished is a 3-star, and it's My Sweet Days of Discipline by Fleur Jaeggy, and it is an Italian translation. We are following a young girl who is sent to a boarding school in Switzerland, and it's kind of about her everyday life growing up in boarding schools. I found it very quaint, but I don't think that I would necessarily recommend it. I'm kind of neutral about it because nothing happened that was like offensive to me or turned me off of it, but then nothing happened where I was really excited either. So I think the reason that I continued through was that the writing and the setting was beautiful. If you want to know more about this one in particular, this is again in my Can I Trust My Favorite Author's Recommendations, because this one was recommended by, I believe, Sheila Heti, who wrote Motherhood, which I liked. So yeah, check that out if you are interested. So moving on up, the next book that I have to talk about is a 3.5 star. It is The Little Girl on the Ice Floe by Adelaide Bond. So this follows Adelaide from when she is about 9 up to her 40s, and when she is 9 years old, she is sexually assaulted. It documents how she deals with that assault over time. So for a very long time, she can't even think of it. She doesn't know why she's acting the way she is. As she gets older, she learns the terms for things and starts to remember fragments of her memory. So I didn't know that in really traumatic, especially sexual assaults, people will have amnesia, like fragmented memory loss, where their mind has blocked them from remembering to protect their body. And so as she gets older, pieces of it start to come back to her when the person who did it is arrested, and then she's thrust back into kind of dealing with it all again. So I gave it 3.5 stars. It might have been higher, except for the fact that I recently read Eggshell Skull by Bree Lee, which deals with similar content, only instead of the personal narrative for the first 2/3, it's more about exploring Australia's justice system, which I found a bit more fascinating than a single woman's character study, but that's just my personal opinion. So the next book I want to talk about is another 3.5 star, and it is My Sister Rosa. We're following a brother, and he is watching as his young sister, he's pretty sure is a sociopath or a psychopath, and as he is documenting this over time, the story interweaves with his family moving to New York City. I put this down a little bit, and it was because in the beginning, when we're setting up the story, you get a lot of the brother and Rosa, and then about halfway through, it really focuses on his coming to terms with New York City. And just to be frankly honest, I don't care about a young boy's like growing up in New York City story. So I was like, oh no, I really hope that's like not the end of like the evil child, the evil sister storyline. And it was not. So the last third got very real. The only reason that it gets 3.5, not higher, is because I felt like the main character, granted he is only a 16-year-old boy, but he was so stupid. He was so dumb. I was a bit frustrated, but then again, he is a nice 16-year-old boy, and the other characters in here are either much older or the sister is much more devious. So if that sounds at all interesting to you, it's called My Sister Rosa, and it was pretty good. It was pretty good. So I'm just gonna keep on with the Slytherin type reads right now, and the next is a 4-star book I want to talk about, and it is The Butcher's Hook by Jeanette Ellis. This is like probably the most Slytherin book I've read since As Much as Meat Loves Salt by Mariah McCann, where you're following a main character who is pretty much ruthless in getting what they want. And like once they play by other people's rules insofar as it aligns with their own goals, and then as soon as it doesn't, they are going to plot and be very cunning and be very manipulative and try to get what they want. So in this one, we were following a main character named Anne, who is a young lady of a household, and when she falls in love with or lust with the butcher's son named Fub, she decides to remove all obstacles in the way of their future romance together. So, if you do not like gore, don't read this book. If you don't like... I'd say that's it. Like, it's just really way bloodier than I thought. And I'm quite surprised, because this was another blind one that I read for like, can I trust authors' recommendations? This was recommended by Hannah Kent, who wrote Burial Rites, and it was really bloody, but it was really good. So I really do recommend it. I gave it 4 stars. It was going to be my favorite probably of the month until I finished a book this morning, and it is slightly more than it for completely different reasons. So the last book I have to talk about is another 4 stars, and it is Strange Weather in Tokyo by Hiromi Kawakami. And the reason that this is so highly rated for me is because, in a large part, certain things that happen in here give me really strong nostalgia for when I lived in Japan. So I lived there for 3 years, and just so many of the things in here made my heart like swell. It was so good. So we're following a 40-year-old woman who keeps going to a neighborhood bar, and when she's there, she runs into an old professor of hers who was her sensei in elementary school. So there's about probably a 30-year difference. He's, I believe, 70 years old and she's 40. And over the course of 2 years, they keep accidentally bumping into each other, and so like they have drinks at the bar, they go mushroom hunting, and then they decide to kind of go to an island and a ryokan, which is like an indoor bath, and they just kind of have this really tender friendship over time where they learn about the other one's personality, they hang out, they eat. It's more about the quiet time you spend with other people rather than necessarily trying to do like lots of events and crazy dates. And it's just about the like everyday slow way that you get to know people. I found it so beautiful, and the end totally made me cry a little, and it was just so good. My 2 picks probably of the month are Strange Weather in Tokyo as well as The Butcher's Hook. Really good. I loved both of them. So I would love to know what you guys think. If you've read any of them, let me know down below in the comments. I look forward to talking to you in another video, and I will chat to you then. Bye!